glad to be up here with Nikki, who's going to be part of the presentation this morning. There's really two parts of what we'll be doing this morning. One is an overview of where we are with Golf 2.0, which hopefully you'll find intriguing. I would encourage you to interrupt with questions, comments, suggestions, opinions throughout the conversation. We'll take a short break in transition, and then we'll talk from a panelist perspective about implementation of some Golf 2.0 strategies. There's really two pieces of the puzzle. Anyway, I think it's important to recognize that if there's one key element to the Golf 2.0 conversation that's really important for you to know, and that's that we're listening. The PGA of America is listening to you, PGA professionals in the room. We're listening to owners. We're listening to employers. We're listening to allied association friends. We're listening to manufacturers. And most importantly, we're listening to the consumers as we move down the road with Golf 2.0, which frankly is a long-term strategic plan that is here to shape the future of golf through more aggressive and creative thinking and alignment of our stakeholders as we make very concerted efforts to grow the game. Golf 2.0 provides data, provides knowledge. It allows us to adapt to, frankly, a new consumer behavior that we're witnessing, brought about by the recession and other social and demographic trends that we've seen. And frankly, Golf 2.0 showcases an opportunity for growth from both traditional outlets with our core players, but also from a non-traditional groups as it relates to underrepresentation. And that's clearly evident by, let's see, 1, 2, forgive my pointing, 3, 4, I see 5 women in here. We have great opportunity with women as it relates to the profession, as it relates to growing the game. So we'll have a significant amount of conversation about that here shortly. And I think that if there's one thing that you recall after the conversation we had this morning is that Golf 2.0 is the ultimate PGA member benefit. While intended to help and shape the future of the industry, our goal is to have it be a significant benefit for you, your job, your facility, and your career. So when you ask the question, what in the world is Golf 2.0, I think it's important to note that about 16, 17 months ago, our PGA past presidents, Tom Addis among them, sort of knocked on the door, if you will, of our current board of directors and our chief executive officer and said, and I'm paraphrasing Tom, but enough is enough. The industry has had its share of challenges brought about by the recession and other factors. We need to hire a group of experts to take a hard look at where we are with our business and where the game is. So we employed the services of the Boston Consulting Group to do a deep dive into consumer behavior. Because after all, PGA of America has a long history, 96 years now, of doing things very well, right? We have a great history, but we've spent most of that time talking to each other, professionals to professionals, industry stakeholders to industry stakeholders. There's an important group that, frankly, we haven't spent a lot of time focusing on, and that's the consumer. So a big part of the Boston Consulting Group study was asking the consumer, what do they think? And based upon their comments, we're building a retail plan for golf that's supported by the industry at large. And it's a bit of a risk when you ask a group of smart people like BCG to ask consumers their opinion, ask the industry, ask employers their thoughts, because we don't know what we're going to find. Well, we found some information that we thought was fairly obvious as it relates to why people are playing less, certainly time and money among them. But we didn't realize the tremendous opportunity that exists out there in the marketplace. Who would have thought that 90 million fellow Americans have played golf at some point in time in their life and are currently standing on the sidelines? That's an unbelievable statistic, 90 million. And even more surprising is that almost 70% of those, or roughly 60 million, raised their hand to 2 or more aspirational questions when asked, would you like to play golf again? They said, yes, if and only if the conditions are right. I'm not talking about course conditions, I'm talking about how am I treated? What is the atmosphere? Is it something that fits into my busy life or I'm worried about a value proposition? If those answers can be put forth correctly, I'm in. So roughly 60 million people are on the sidelines right now who want to play again, and that's an unbelievable opportunity, grander than we would have been anticipated. What's been critical to our success to date in phase 1 of Golf 2.0 is the fact that we've had a conversation, like we're having this morning, a conversation with the entire industry. Based upon what the consumer's telling us, we're talking to everyone about what they think, from employers and owners to everyone engaged. It's important, very important, that we work together as we build out our plan. We also have to recognize that the communication that we're having that really dovetails into training and education can't be just for PGA Professional. It needs to be for the entire industry. After all, think about all the touch points that occur at a facility, whether it be a high-end private facility where there's a guard gate, maybe a greeter, down to a municipal golf course where the first point of contact might be in the golf shop. Who is providing that point of contact? If it was the PGA Professional, no worries. Talk about experts in customer service, making sure that everyone feels welcome and at home. But bottom line is, you're not at every point of contact. You're not at the guard gate. You're not at the bag drop necessarily. Are you on the practice tee, the first tee? Are you rangering on the golf course? Maybe in some cases, yes. But all those points of contact require a level of understanding and education as it relates to the impact that those people have on the consumer. It might be 3 or 4 people who are talking to your consumer before they actually talk to you. And that sometimes can be a challenge. So the strategy that we're building, as Tom mentioned in his opening comments, are really built on 3 core pillars. Number 1, we have to protect the core players that we currently enjoy. After all, that's the bread and butter of our industry. That's where most of the revenue is coming from, as it relates to rounds, as it relates to lessons, as it relates to apparel purchases. So protecting the core is critical. And last year we lost 1 million players net. 3.6 million players came into the game, 4.6 million left. That net is a huge churn that we certainly need to address. So protecting our core players is critically important. These lapsed players we talked about, the 90 million who used to play on the sidelines, 60 million of whom want to play again, we have to engage them. The opportunity is tremendous. So that's pillar number 2. And then 3, which has been certainly a cornerstone to the Southern California section, is building new players, specifically in youth development categories, but really all potential new players. There are so many folks who aspire to be part of our game but don't know where to start. Youth development is a key component, certainly. And I'm not going to dwell on the past. I'm certainly not going to spend too much time talking about pessimistic news, which this graph represents. But I think it's important to recognize that participation trends really did bring about the necessity of Golf 2.0. And it's up to us, all of us in the room, to prove that golf is an exciting alternative to other sports and recreational activities that the public is moving towards. We must correct misperceptions about price. After all, when Boston Consulting Group did their consumer survey, the consumers thought average greens fee about $100. Well, there's plenty of that, and sometimes we get what we pay for. The average price in our country is under $40. How about a lesson? $150 is what they reported. Well, plenty of folks do a great job charge that. Certainly that's more than 2 times what the normal lesson cost is. How about equipment? Talk about perception. Over $1,000 is what the consumer thought equipment costs. And while it certainly does exist, there certainly are less expensive options for a consumer who's just getting started in the game. So making sure that the consumer recognizes that the game is family-friendly, beginner-friendly, and it certainly is something that's affordable and available to them. It's also important to recognize that golf is fun, right? How many of us got started in the game because we wanted to make a career out of it? Most of us got started because we love the game. We have fun. We have a passion for it. That passion that you have is something that is our most valuable asset, because that brings people, and I brought you in, right? Somebody educated you, informed you, sold you on the value of the game, taught you how to fall in love with it, right? It's our opportunity to do the same for the consumer. We need to showcase that it is fun. It's also healthy. And for the younger generation, we even use the word hip. I did use that word, right? We have to make sure that we're compelling to all of our demographics. So you need to make sure that we recognize how important it is to sell the fun part of the game that you all know and love. And frankly, we have to make sure we ask our customers, our members, what they want. Because I've heard people talk in crowds, large and small, that, well, PGA Professionals aren't providing the right value proposition for the consumer. They're not providing value as it relates to products and services, and I vehemently disagree. PGA professionals provide high quality programs, great services, world-class instruction and events. There's no question about that. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, what you're providing, is that what the customer wants? If you've been providing the same programming, the same services for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, recognize that the consumer continues to evolve and change. Are we asking the consumer what they specifically want and how golf can fit into their lives? Because frankly, we've required that the consumer fits into golf, right? With the way they dress, the way they act. We talk to kids about golf. They talk about, gracious, you have to be quiet. No technology seems really complicated. We need to make sure we can find a way for golf to fit into the lives of our consumer, and a consumer that continues to change. So somebody asked me the last time I spoke, well, Darrell, that's all well and good, but tell me right now, what's one thing that I can do? This was a gentleman who worked at a private club. He said, tell me one thing I can do so that I can know my customer better. Now, don't tell me about technology. Well, that's important, as I reminded him. Don't tell me about surveys. That's important, I told him. But he said, what can I do right now at a private facility so that I can know my customers better and provide the service that you're talking about? I said, well, if it was me, which it's not, but if it was me, what I would do is I'd identify maybe 10 or 20 members at your club who may be outliers. People who used to play golf 2 or 3 days a week. You might see them once every other week, once a month now. Or maybe pick out a couple of folks who tend to be critical of everything that you do. We all have folks like that, right? Find those 10 or 20 people, and over the next several months, invite each one of them to play golf with you. And the professional looked at me, kind of a strange look. What now? How's that going to help me know my customer better? I said, my perspective is if you spend 2 hours playing 9 holes, 4 hours playing 18 holes, with one of your members who either hasn't been there much recently for whatever reason, or is highly critical of your operation, they're going to get to know you. And that's important because you are an expert. You're a good player, you're a good teacher, you're a good promoter, you know the game at such a high level, they're going to be reminded of why you're valuable. Conversationally and by example, a tip or two while you play. Also, you're going to get to know them because you are asking them for feedback. As an example, if it was Tom being the critical member, Tom, tell me about what's going on with your life, with your job, with your family. What can I do to help make golf more attractive to you? You used to be here 2-3 days a week. We barely see it once a month. You're going to find out what's going on in Tom's life and why golf maybe hasn't been fitting. As simple as that sounds, what a great way to build, enhance relationships. And if we do that, we're truly going to get to know our customers at a higher level. Okay, last slide that has anything pessimistic on it. I think it's important that we recognize that our golf industry really is at a crossroads. The recession over the last 3 or 4 years has changed the mindset of people as it relates to their time, the commitment they can bring to the game, and also the sensitivity to cost. So we have to work hard to present new ways for people to look at the game and find ways to participate in golf. The need for successful player development has never been higher, and I think it's critical that we embrace it with both arms. One other anecdotal story that I think it's worth noting. Using the term free is a slippery slope in our business, right? A professional who I know well, who is a very good instructor at a very nice facility, said, you know, I tried something last summer that I thought I'd never do. I decided that once a week I was going to find somebody who I knew at the facility, and I was going to offer them a free 30-minute lesson. I thought I'd never do that. You know what that turned into? By just going up to a member of the club and saying, I don't think you've ever taken a lesson before. I just want to offer you a free lesson. He cringed the first time he said it. You know what that turned into? The member said, you talking to me? Really? A free lesson? What do I do? How do I prepare? Just bring your clubs. We'll meet on Wednesday, let's say 5:30, and we'll take a look at your game. I'd really like to help you get better. You know what that member did? He told everybody he saw the next week, hey, the pro asked me to take a lesson. So the amateur shows up, 5:30, ready to go. You know what happens after the lesson? The amateur says, hey, is this something we can maybe do on a regular basis? Sure. Maybe like once a week for a while. I feel like I found something today. A month later, as the professional recounts the story, not only had that amateur had a lesson a week, during the conversation, during maybe the third or fourth lesson, they talked about equipment. Have you ever been fitted for clubs? I thought that was only for tour players or great amateurs. No, that's for you, as the professional said. So 2 months later, we have an amateur who's never taken a lesson, who's taken 7 or 8, got fitted for clubs, bought new clubs, and evidently told 100 people about the success of this experience. I think that's important to note because being invited to participate is something that I think sometimes we take for granted. As a decent player myself, the last time I took a lesson was when a PGA professional invited me. I think he was concerned about the decay of my golf game. But the bottom line is, he invited me to participate, and I sort of did the same thing. Really? You want to spend time with me? So don't forget the importance of that invitation and the power that that can have. Okay? Enough of me talking. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Nikki to walk you through a few slides. Nikki.
Darrell, good morning, everybody. So nice to see everybody. I know I've been seeing several of you as I've been pounding the pavement in my new role with the PGA, and I see a lot of faces out here that I haven't seen yet. So I hope to do that sooner rather than later. We're going to start diving into some real player development tools and resources that you can utilize at your facility, and one that we want to focus on a little bit more today than some of the others is Get Golf Ready. And I hope that all of you are familiar with this program. It is probably the most proven successful player development program that we've had. And as you can see from some of the stats on there, from last year, almost 2,000 facilities across the country registered for this. And 2011 was really spent paving groundwork through awareness and evolution of existing programs to Get Golf Ready. And later on, we're going to have some panelists come up and share their success stories. And also what I've found in some of my visits in the last 60 days is that there is a lot going on out there. There's a lot more going on than we know about. And a lot of you are utilizing Get Golf Ready and having great success, and a lot of you are customizing a Get Golf Ready type program at your facility that's generated a lot of success, and you'll hear about some of that again later today. As you remember, a few years ago when Get Golf Ready started, first launched, was launched by Golf 2020. Now the PGA of America has taken over responsibility of Get Golf Ready, still working very closely with Golf 2020. But as you can see, with an average of 40 students in Get Golf Ready and a nearly 80% retention rate, there's a lot of success there. And like Darrell said, it really sometimes just takes getting them to get started. Whether that's strictly a beginner class for Get Golf Ready, a Get Golf Ready for women, families, your social members at your club that may not be playing golf. A lot of success stories out there, and a lot of ways to get creative. Get Golf Ready is so great, in my opinion. It's all right there for you. It's in a toolbox. It's ready to go. The templates are there. Basically, here's the program. Golf professional, go do it. You can do that, or you can get creative with it and make it fit with your facility and what's going to work best for your customers and your members. The good news is that 67% of all of our PGA staff facilities have utilized Get Golf Ready. That's a great number. We want to see that number increase because we see the great value that Get Golf Ready has. And with that being said, we have just over 500 facilities here in the section, but only 100 of those facilities are currently registered and utilizing Get Golf Ready. So we felt that it is so beneficial to you and your facilities, and ultimately to your bottom line and your owners. We felt it was so important that today we're going to utilize this forum to show a little video, and my assistant Darrell pull that up. Short 5-minute video narrated by our Vice President Ted Bishop. And after you watch this video, those of you who are not registered currently through Get Golf Ready, you'll find some registration forms there on the tables. And if you want to complete those and hand those either to myself or to our section staff at the end of the morning today, your facility will be registered. You will not need to go online and complete the application or watch the video. We're going to do that right now this morning.